You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey, you're listening to the Cards to the Moon podcast. My name is Clark, and with me for episode 24 is Hyung and John, as always. Plus, we have a special guest interview coming up later in the show, and it's with Costa. We'll get into his story in a bit, but he's a guy you might have already seen in the hobby with his Big Night Breaks production and his brand new Card Vault store right across from Gillette Stadium, home of your New England Patriots. So that's pretty impressive, and we're excited to have him on the show. Quick thoughts on Chris, you guys? How did you kind of first hear about him?
I actually met Chris really early on in the hobby. I guess before the whole hobby spike, and this is when Instagram was really new kind of to the hobby, and everybody's kind of like making up their own accounts and then following each other who had baseball cards. And yeah, we started talking, and he played college baseball too, so that was kind of something in common we kind of gravitated towards, and we started talking and then had similar interests. And then it kind of led to just kind of seeing what he was doing in the hobby. He started investing in like bigger cards, and then he had questions whether you should hold and sell. I think one of them was like a chrome sapphire orange Tatis auto. Yeah, he had like a BGS. It was massive, and he was like thinking whether to hold. I was like hold. He was all about like selling it, but I think he ended up selling it. But we could ask him. I don't remember what he actually did, but and then it was interesting because he was a guy that I always was seeing him evolving with random stuff. So he would first say he was up to something, and then next thing you know, like Big Night Sports Break would, he would basically have that up and running. So it was cool to kind of watch, I guess, from when he started to kind of seeing what he was doing. And now he opened, I guess, the Card Vault, and then having like people like, celebrities on his Big Night Breaks and whatnot. It's pretty crazy to see within the last couple of years what he's doing. So he's definitely an interesting guy, I guess, to pick his brain, because he's seen it all. So that's how we kind of met, and then I kind of reached out to him when we talked about who we could have on the show, on the pod, and he was a perfect guy. I thought a perfect candidate because he's kind of like down to earth, and he's actually doing stuff, right? So it's like he's a guy that's kind of creating, future timelines, essentially things that never existed, right? So to me, I gravitate towards that. I respect kind of like the entrepreneurship of his mindset. So it's neat to definitely have him on, and I'm looking forward to picking his brain for sure. Yeah, awesome. How about you, John?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I only know his name through you guys, like when Hyung chatted about Chris in the past. But I'm excited to hear from the guy. Like I think one thing that I'm I look up to him in terms of like what he's accomplished. He's literally like one of us. He's one of the older heads I used to collect in the 90s or whatever. And he is somebody that basically walks the walk. Like we all dream of saying, oh, we should do this. Oh, I love the hobby. We should start this, or we should try this, or, whatnot. And he's a dude that literally is doing exactly what he's talking about. So I think that's something that is pretty neat to see, and I'm pretty excited to ask him some questions.
I think it's like literally 3 startups in the last 2 years.
Crazy.
Which is nuts, right? But that just shows you like the industry is that big. It's ever evolving, right? So it's there's where there's involvement, there's opportunity, right? So I think people like that just kind of like jump on those opportunities and seeing where it kind of takes them and onto the next, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Like you already mentioned, I probably first saw him on social media with his Big Night Breaks. No one was doing breaks like he was at that time, like this big production. So that was pretty cool. He kind of put himself on the radar fairly quickly, I think.
Yeah.
And like you said, he's just continuing to evolve and grow with the hobby. So that's kind of cool to see as well. But before we quickly go into that interview and welcome Chris to the pod, there was an interesting post from Card Porn this past week about breakers who give themselves the best team slots in the break while making all the other slots available for anyone who wants them. There are strong reactions in the comments from both sides, right? But some collectors think it's unethical. I would say the majority of the comments lean toward that opinion. And actually, Card Porn, right before we started recording this, put up a new post with a poll that they did, and they mentioned 80+% did think it was unethical or had a problem with breakers doing that, while others think it's fair game as a business as long as they are transparent about it. So quickly, I just wanted to see what did you guys think? I know this had a strong reaction from the hobby community. So your thoughts?
I think as a public like breaker, if you're a breaker, yeah, that's a big no. I think there's some ethics and morals, and because there's a large chance that you enter these breaks and you hit nothing, right? And then all of a sudden you're in a situation where the person hosting the break is essentially winning, right? And then it just there's no positive that could come out of it, especially when we're almost living in a digital era, right? So everything's done on camera. So it's like all of a sudden, the host hits something big and then everybody skunks out, right? So I think it's okay in a private setting when you have a group of, like, let's just say your boys, right? And then you're like, okay, who wants to join a break? I'm taking these teams. Anybody interested? I think from that perspective, I think it's okay, but I think if you're a public breaker, I think that's a big no. And it's always been that way. And like, you can't enter your own breaks, just how it is, right? So,
okay. Okay, interesting. Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the truth is to some of the stuff that Card Porn put, if it's legit facts, but based on what he said, if somebody were to do a break and his buddy who's on a different Instagram account comes in and purchases a slot for one of the best teams, and they don't disclose that, I think that's, it's a
shady.
Yeah, it's a little shady. It's not horrible, but it's a little shady. And then, if you reserve the best teams for yourself, like all of this, basically you just need, like Hyung said at the beginning, you just need full disclosure. I think if you disclose everything, this break is coming, 2019 Prism, I'm taking New Orleans at a cost of this much. Here are the remaining teams. If people knew that, I think they would price in their head accordingly the odds and all that stuff, and they'll go into the purchase. I think that's all it is. And, if anything comes out of the Card Porn, his latest post about, I think like 85% of people, looking at the post voted on, yeah, it's shady. For any breaker out there, I think it's a good learning lesson. For the market, is like, if you're not transparent, or if like Hyung said, I think you should take on the rule that the breakers shouldn't enter their own breaks, right or wrong, ethical or not ethical. Clearly the market sees it as negative. So that's just going to affect your business, man. Like in the end, if your business takes that negative hit, like that's going to hurt you in the long run. So it's just smart not to, just don't even bother. Like, make that policy. Friends, family, myself, I don't enter my own breaks, and then go from there. I think that's just the cleanest, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, I generally agree with you guys. But I think if they're transparent, totally transparent, that they're taking the best spots and they pay for it,
right?
I think it's fair for a business. I think even that poll that Card Porn did, I think it asked, do you think it's fair that they take the best slots or give it to their friends and family? Like that second part, I think would skew most people to say, no, it's not fair. Like, I don't agree with them giving it to friends and family because, you can hide that fact a little bit more, right? It doesn't say like such and such breakers have spot number 25 or for the Charlotte Hornets during the LaMelo Ball rookie year, right? And so I think there's there can be abuse of that if they give it to their friends and family. But if they're straight up about it, then I don't have an issue with it. Like, you can join that break, or you don't have to.
Yeah, like that'll be up to you
right up front.
Totally,
right? Like
100%.
It's like but at the same time, I do agree with what you said too. if it's a negative perception, if I'm a buyer, and I'm like, oh, these guys actually take the best spots, I don't even want to go into their breaks. Like I'd rather go somewhere else where they have a rule that said they don't enter their breaks. Right. Then it's better business for that breaker. I would assume that they would also adopt a similar policy saying like, we don't enter our own breaks to get more customers or clients. Right. So as a business, you can do whatever you want as long as you're open and transparent, but it might be a good business move based on the comments we've been seeing to make it a rule that you don't enter your own breaks.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
And I think do you know, eBay, for instance, they close out some auctions for teams in breaks, right? So I think eBay is more prone to stuff like that because, like, for instance, like if I'm in a Facebook group and, for instance, Pristine breaks, they do a lot of Bowman product, and basically it's a preview post, and then at that time they're gonna post, and it's first come first serve. So it's very transparent. Everybody's on Facebook anyway, so everybody's participating, and it's a clean way of kind of knowing that the breaker's not participating, right? Because all teams are available and everybody's has a chance at getting it. It's pick your team, basically, the format. But on eBay, what I was saying is a lot of these breakers, what they do is they'd buy a case, or not, sorry, I'm not going to say a lot of these breakers. What some breakers do is they'll buy a case and then they'll pick their teams and then sell off the rest of the remaining. Right. You wouldn't know. Is what I'm saying, right? Idea. So it's like, so that's,
you're not being transparent. So that's, right. I'm totally against that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. But you wouldn't even know if he was, they were doing it. So I think that's a way that they can kind of like just put it out there, and you would never know actually, because you're just joining the live break after you win the eBay auction, and you think, hey, you know what? I paid for Atlanta Braves, right? And then you have no clue that you're just filling in spots, right? So
yeah. It's definitely a polarizing topic. I'm not sure there's a clean resolution to it, but basic piece of advice I think we can all agree on is just do your research in the break that you're entering, and then you should be good. Yeah. Okay, without further ado then, instead of hobby headlines today, we'll move on to our interview with Chris Costa of Costa Cards and of Big Night Breaks. Hey Chris, welcome to the podcast. We're glad to have you on. Just before we get into a few questions, I just wanted to let our listeners know who you are for those who still haven't seen you on the various social media channels and around the hobby. Chris is an entrepreneur from the Boston area, and he's a sports card dealer, aka Costa Cards on Instagram. He's also a partner with Big Night Breaks, which is where I personally first heard of you, Chris. And their high production breaks really set them apart from other breakers, in my opinion. And as part of Big Night, Chris and his partners just opened a hobby retail 1,600 square foot store called Card Vault across from Gillette Stadium, home of the New England Patriots. And if that wasn't enough, Big Night is having its Causeway Card Show at the historic TD Boston Garden on January 8 and 9. So if you're in the area, go check it out. Hope I got all that right. Yeah?
What an intro.
Amazing.
Wow.
Clark has a journalism background.
I do. Former journalist for 15 years.
You hear it all out loud, and it's like, God, we have too much going on.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, welcome.
Thank you guys for having me. Super excited to be here. Obviously, respect everything that the three of you have done and the businesses that you've built. So definitely looking forward to this conversation. Excited to kind of dig in with you guys.
Appreciate that. Yeah. And when we started this podcast, one of our goals was to start connecting with influencers in the hobby like yourself to talk about your journey and also pick your brain on some hobby issues. So first, maybe a good place to start is, how did you get into the hobby? Did you collect as a kid like all of us here and then get back into it during the recent hobby resurgence? Yeah. Tell us your story.
My story is unique, but also not so unique now that we hear everybody's story. I collected my whole life. I've been a collector my whole life, ever since I can remember, ripping packs in the backseat of my mother's car. She'd drive me out once a week to the local hobby shop, and I'd grab whatever, my allowance would afford, and I'd, rip. And this was in the 90s when, I was chasing like Nomar Garcia Parra. And
Nice.
Love it. so unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that like I accumulated as a kid, it's just really not worth much.
Worthless, yeah.
But yeah, like it just kind of went on my collecting journey from there, and fell out of it, right? And became more focused on physical sports, and was an athlete growing up, and continued to play baseball through college, and fell out of, not love with the hobby, but fell out of focus with the hobby until about 4 years ago, where I dove back in, and it was like it was really Bowman that brought me back into the hobby, and prospecting and chasing prospects, and the exciting prospect classes that we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. And then it just snowballed and continued to snowball, as it has for so many of us, right? We're super fortunate to be in the space that we are, and super fortunate to have had this industry have the trajectory that it's had over the last 4 or 5 years. But yeah, that's really where it started, where it picked back up. And of course, since the day I got back in, things have just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow. And as the market grows, our collections grow, and as our collections grow, our interest grows. And we're very fortunate to have all of the talent that we have in all of the major sports right now. But yeah, that's where or how I got back into the hobby, and really to where things are today, which is
nice.
As you mentioned in the intro, it's sort of getting out of control.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of those points that you made are very similar to our backstories. So totally hear ya. It seems you dived deep into the hobby fairly quickly when you got back in, just by seeing like all the investments you've made, especially through the production of Big Night Breaks. Were you that bullish? Were you that confident that the hobby would continue to grow at that point, or did you just think that you would go for the ride and see what happens?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely have been confident and bullish on sports cards and collectibles, for that matter, for a while. Like, and I think the moves that I've made, and the partnerships that we've formed, and the businesses that we've built, are just kind of a manifestation of that confidence.
Yeah.
I think realistically, when I look back a year or 2 years from now, where my head was at that time, we were going into the pandemic, and things were in question, right? We saw this trajectory heading into the pandemic that was, pretty linear, but growing. And then, if you guys remember, we kind of saw sports shut down, and we were all like, "Oh no, what have we put all this money and invested all this money into these players that they're not even going to be on the field? Like, we're in trouble."
Yeah.
And it was the complete opposite. And people started throwing their money into this industry, into this hobby, and my confidence continued to grow. And that was, I think it was part what you mentioned, taking a chance and just wanting to do this as a career and full time.
Yeah.
But also having confidence in the industry. There's so many different factors that boil into that confidence that we can talk about. But yeah, I think it's a mix of both. There's definitely some chance taking. You don't build businesses without taking chances, but also just bullish confidence in everything that we do.
Nice. Can I ask you, what did you do before you went full time into the hobby?
Yeah, I've been and spent my career in technology, specifically in sales. So I've spent the last decade in enterprise software sales, working with large technology companies and banks and what have you, all different types of companies, putting solutions in place from a software and technology perspective. So have worked for big technology companies, have worked for small startups, and have been super fortunate and blessed throughout my career to have found success, and been in positions to be able to take chances.
Yeah.
But I think part of the things that I've learned in my career and in my ability to articulate messages and put together proposals and negotiate and find opportunity have translated really well into sports cards, and always have, right? So ever since I got back in. So I think, there's certainly some things that I've gleaned from my career that have lent well into the things that we're doing today.
Yeah, definitely shows. Yeah. So as we mentioned off the top, you guys just opened up a 1,600 square foot hobby shop, which looks amazing, by the way.
It does,
now when almost every business, not just in the hobby, but across industries, are looking to close brick and mortar stores and go completely digital, You went the other way. Why did you guys want to open a physical space for your sports card business?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of different reasons. Our story as a company started with breaking, right? We started with a digital experience for our consumers, and we built the following and a digital following and built digital experiences that we tried to make different than anything that was offered out there. And we had some success doing that, right? We were able to intertwine, nightlife and entertainment and celebrities and athletes into the sports card world from a breaking perspective. And that's really, we saw Big Night Breaks, which you mentioned earlier, which is our breaking platform, have some quick and exciting success, which proved that Big Night as a company, which is the largest nightlife and entertainment company in the country. We have 17 venues, some of the biggest in top nightclubs and bars and restaurants in the world.
Yeah.
We decided that Big Night Breaks had proven that sports cards and nightlife and entertainment could exist together. And that's where myself and my partners at Big Night decided to go all in. And we wanted to provide an experience, an end-to-end experience that gave the consumer the ability to do everything sports cards with us under one roof. And a big part of that I have always firmly believe is putting something physically out there that the consumer can touch is super important. And it grounds the brand, it grounds the business, and helps build community around the business. And Card Vault is our physical manifestation of that idea, and gives our customers a place to congregate, to buy, to sell, to trade, to get things graded that they may break with us, to come and meet us and our team, and is really kind of this a central part of this end-to-end experience that we're building that is 100% digital. We don't want to get away from our digital presence, but also now physical. And the card stores, this being the first one at Patriot Place, yes, we want to do sales in the store, and yes, we want to have sales and have successful revenue, but it's more so an opportunity to get our brand out there than anything. So that's really the high level idea behind it.
Okay, I love that play, and I heard that you guys are thinking of opening a couple more stores.
Yeah, we've got some pretty lofty plans. Our second location will be open in December.
Nice. Wow.
And that is at TD Garden, which is where our Causeway show will be.
Sweet.
We're super excited about that. We have a third location in the works, and then potentially a fourth location in the works, which poses obviously tremendous challenges from, this is not an industry or a business that has generally scaled really well.
Right.
Brick and mortar local card shops.
Yeah.
It's tough. You inventory management, order management. How do you manage all these singles across multiple locations on top of the wax? But we have a recipe that we think is super scalable, like beyond 4 stores. And the crux of that is technology, and you have to have good technology. Tying in my background from a technology perspective, and have good systems in place that can allow you to do that. But Card Vault's growing. There's going to be multiple locations. It's super important locations that we're super excited about.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah. And I know on Instagram, I saw that you got Robert Kraft to come to your opening. How did that happen? You just asked him?
Yeah, no, just asked him. I gave him a call and asked him to come down. So Big Night, as I mentioned, is leader in nightlife and entertainment. We have many locations. It's a very large business, and Mr. Kraft, Robert, is a friend of Big Night. He's one of our investors and believes in our businesses and supports our businesses, including Card Vault. He has been super supportive of Card Vault. Obviously, he is our landlord, place, but more importantly, a friend to our core business, which is Big Night. And him supporting us is super important to us. We obviously build credibility with his support. Him being here for our ribbon cutting has helped us build credibility. He's obviously a very influential figure in the sports world. So we're super blessed to have folks like him and many others that are very influential in the sports world be friends of ours. And that's one of the reasons that I thought it was worthwhile taking a chance and partnering with Big Night, because the resources that Big Night has and the friendships and the relationships and the network that Big Night has makes so much of what we're doing so much more possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And again, on Instagram, I've seen some of the connections you've already made through Big Night Breaks. Some very impressive A-listers, like you mentioned Steve Aoki, Kraft, who we're talking about, and Shaq, I think I saw you with. Was there anyone you were particularly stoked about meeting in person?
Yeah. Well, first off, it's always exciting to be with Mr. Kraft. He's got an aura about him. He's obviously an incredibly powerful person and incredibly influential, incredibly successful, incredibly intelligent, all of those things
Right.
going on and on. So that's always, an experience. Steve Aoki is a really good friend of ours and has been super supportive. And Steve is electric a human as you'll meet.
Yeah, for sure.
But of all the people that we've done anything sports card related, I would say I was most excited to spend time with Dana White.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
When UFC Prism came out,
Yeah.
we were fortunate to be the first people to break it with him. So we broke a box of UFC Prism Hobby with him on release day, on our live stream. And, Dana's another friend of the business and somebody that's obviously super influential and super powerful and all of those great things. But
Yeah.
that was just a really cool experience. Opening UFC Prism with the owner and the president of UFC.
Unreal.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do you remember getting any big hits when you
Yeah.
opened
Any
it?
decent autos?
We pulled a George St. Pierre auto, which was super
Oh, no
cool.
way.
Repping
Pulled a
Canada
blue-
here.
We pulled a Blue McGregor, which was sweet.
Wow, that's sick.
Oh.
But more so just like the conversation of the not so big hits. Like we pull out fighters and he's like, oh, they're on my card this weekend. They're on our card next
Oh,
weekend.
no way. Yeah.
It was just a really cool experience. And, Dana's such an engaging guy and just like larger than life that was just that one. I got off the live stream and I looked at my team and I was like, that was too cool. That was one of the coolest things I've ever done. So
Nice.
pumped about that.
That's pretty sweet. I also want to ask you, we've seen the hobby change so much, even in the past few years. How do you think the hobby will evolve in the future? Or maybe what would you like to see in the hobby as it continues to grow?
Yeah, well, I mean, we obviously see so many big announcements and big shifts and big things coming and changes in our industry. I think technology is number one. The more we can introduce technology into our industry, the more that we can rely on technology in our industry, the more that we can get good data in our industry, right? From an investor's perspective, if I'm out there buying cards, the more data I have at my disposal, the better decisions I can make, the better systems that I have that I can leverage, the more scalable my business is, the more opportunity there is from a technology perspective, the more investment comes into our industry. So I think that's the most exciting part. And what I think is really the biggest opportunity for change is technology. There's no true order management system and inventory management system that's designed for sports cards, right? We are piecing together different solutions to come up with a solution that's friendly to sports cards. There's no perfect analytical tool right now to help with markets, right? There's good ones and some do some things better than others, but none of them do everything perfectly. So there's opportunity there. The grading companies continue to invest in technology and add technology to their stack, and that's a big opportunity. And I think something that's going to transform our industry. And with that, and with all of that opportunity, whenever there's gaps and opportunity for investment in technology, we're going to start to see big money come in. Right. That's where we're going to start to see big investment. And that's where our hobby, right, that we all have fun in, becomes an industry, which it already has, right? Like the numbers that are out there are insane. The market is capped, the market valuation. We're an industry and we're a legitimate industry. Right. But you start to see private equity, large scale investment, big tech, big names. That's where we start to become what we really deserve to become. Which I think is super, super exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I've used my excuse as a journalist to ask all the questions, but I want to open it up to Hyung and John. Do you guys have any questions you want to ask Chris?
Well, one, I remember back when we started talking about you're wondering if you should sell that orange Tatis Sapphire Auto, whether you should hold or sell. I remember that conversation.
We all have our L's, right?
No.
Face.
Chris, I honestly don't know what you ended up doing with that. We kind of just
okay.
let that happen because I was like, man, that's a huge card. Like that's a big time card, right? So I didn't know what you did with it. So we talked about it earlier on the show, and I was like, you know what? That's a question I gotta ask him. What'd you do with that?
Gone.
It's gone, eh? You sold it, eh?
Sold it right around when we were talking about it. And that was like my first big sale. Up until that point, I had just hoarded. I was
right,
holding.
yeah.
And it was cards in, no cards out. And that was like the first, outside of like eBay listings on lower end stuff and moving through some of like the commons and the base. That was my first big hit that I pulled out of a pack that I moved.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But, at the time, ironically, at that time, and we're talking about the 2019 Sapphire Fernando Tatis rookie autograph. I graded it. It was a 9.5/10, beautiful card out of 25, amazing. And like that's when Tatis's market was as hot as it was the hottest market on the planet.
Yeah.
Little did we know that, what at the time was a $3,500 card, and one of the bigger cards out there was probably going to be a $15,000 to $20,000 card, if not more.
Yeah.
But what helped me move it was I actually got incredibly lucky. I opened the box at Topps Chrome, and I pulled the Orange Wave rookie auto.
That's what we were talking about. Yeah, that's crazy.
There you go.
And you had a record sale on that one.
Yeah,
like that was the big time sale, and that's
Sapphire I sold for like $3,000. And I look back and it's like, but now you go through enough cards where it's just like you gotta take your lumps and keep moving, right?
Yeah.
And a sale, a profit's a profit.
Good advice.
Take the money off the tape. But then the Orange Wave I sold privately for I think it was $22,500.
That's nuts. I had that card. That was my dead wrong card. I sold that at like 1,400. So when you went like this, that was me. I had the PSA. It was a pop 3. I panic sold right during that time of the COVID.
The shoulder injury or the back injury.
Yeah.
One of those
No.
That,
It was before that. This was when COVID the shutdown happened. This is when you were talking about it. Yeah. So that's when I panic sold. I sold the Sapphire, the Acuna Sapphire to Phil Hughes. And then I sold that Orange Wave, and I that's the one I regret. I sold that, and I was just like, good God. And I remember you told me. You
and I connected early on. As I mentioned earlier, I got back into this as a baseball collector. Baseball's always been my first love. I played baseball. I know you played baseball.
Yeah.
And, I was always kind of envious of, your collection. You had built up such an amazing baseball collection and, continue to bring in great cards. If I remember correctly, you were heavy on Vlad, right? You brought in a bunch of Vlad.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Nice. I told you. For me, you remember that I was buying Vlad. Everybody was off of him. I'm saying this guy's way too cheap.
I just loaded.
I absolutely loaded up on Vlad. Yeah.
That's funny. You remember that. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Tatis has come and gone through, listen, I certainly have taken this thing to level after level after level. And I've gone from personal collection to, dealer as a personal dealer, but, buying, selling and trading at more of a rapid clip to then building a business around it. And now it's a business with inventory. And I look at things differently. And it's funny how that happens when you start a business, not that any of us are doing isn't a business, but when you start a brick and mortar business, the way you look at the cards changes. Now, I certainly maintain a PC,
right?
And I continue to maintain several cards that I own. I own all the cards with my team, but there's some that that are mine,
right?
And they're always mine,
right.
And those are typically like on the Brady side of things, just because of where we are.
Sure.
But it's funny because the way you look at the cards changes. They become inventory, and it becomes the lifeblood of your business. You have to go through it, right? And you reinvest the money, or you trade up or trade down.
Right.
And your inventory and your collection takes on a mind of its own.
Yeah.
So that's been super interesting to watch. But like, you know, the things like the Brady Contenders,
Ooh.
Damn.
Oh my gosh.
Damn.
Brady Refractor.
Oh my
Jeez,
gosh.
that
That-
refractor is sick.
It's a beauty.
That's
That's
my
insane.
absolute favorite.
Yeah.
The Curry Refractor.
Yeah, there it
Oh
is.
man.
Curry, man.
So some pretty sweet
Yeah.
stuff that I'm super excited about. You know, I have
cow.
plenty of other really cool stuff that we can hit on quickly, but that's like what's changed the most. What's been fascinating to me is because as a collector, when you and I first connected, you know, the way I looked at cards was so different than it is
Right.
now, because now I see how it's okay to move on from things
Right.
because there's always going to be other cards that I'm going to love just as much, unless they're, you know,
True.
Brady Refractor.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it is interesting how I look at cards now versus how I did even a year ago, right? So
Yeah.
I always think
That's-
it's fascinating.
No, that's good advice, because that's the whole point. It's always progressing and, you know, growing that stack of inventory that you have, right? Whether you're trading up, you're always trying to, you know, improve your portfolio, your hand, right? And I think that's part of the hustle. And I totally see it. Like, you're probably looking at it at a total different perspective, but at the end of the day, it's probably something that you've never thought you'd probably get into, like the $50,000, $100,000 cards.
Crazy.
That's when
Insane.
it starts getting real, right? So
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But like, you know, there's different pockets of this business, right? Like
mhm,
when we're collecting, we look at things from an investment perspective, right?
Right.
And we're looking at things, okay, this is a 3-month hold, this is a 6-month hold, this is a year hold. And when you start to look at things from like a dealer's perspective, right, when you're going to shows and moving through inventory at maybe a quicker clip than you were as a private, collector or
Right.
investor,
For sure.
you know, you still want to have some of those plays, right? You still want to have a portion of your inventory towards investment, right? And you want to look at things and time the market.
Yeah.
But you also have a portion of your inventory that's got a cycle. And,
Right.
you know, even if I think a, Kyler Murray NTRPA is,
That's sweet.
Yeah.
you know, I think a Kyler Murray NTRPA is a good 6-month hold. But if I bought it 3 months ago and I can make a 20, a 40, a 50% profit, well, that's money I can reinvest into more Kyler Murray.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
what have
Makes
you,
sense.
right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
So there, you know, it becomes a portion of this business, and my business is still very much centered around the things we did a couple of years ago, a few years ago, where it's okay. Let's put some money into Tatis. Let's put some money into Vlad or Acuna.
Yeah.
But then, you know, portions of it are just, it's out. My cards are out, and somebody walks in and they say, "Hey, I'll take that card. It's theirs." Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very different from that.
100%.
yeah, no, it's literally it's scalable what you're doing, just on a, you know, a way bigger level, right? And it's a place where people are willing to emotionally buy too, right? Once they're in the place, they have this feeling of, you know what, I'm going to do it. There's no other place that I would drop $20,000-$30,000 or, you know, trade in my high end cards to, you know, liquidate. And then you have a setup where you could, you know, basically monetize on it. And that's amazing. You could do that on that kind of scale. So it's like interesting to kind of
cool.
see that.
Great way to put it, right? It's you have to, over a certain amount of time, when you do enough deals and you move through enough cards, you start to realize you have to take some of the emotion out of it. Right.
Right.
It is a very emotional,
Absolutely.
Very good advice. Yeah.
such an emotional space. This is
Right.
such an emotional industry. We love
Yeah.
cards. We love them. We actually love them.
Yeah.
So to move them is a mental leap.
Right.
But you make that leap enough, it starts to become, you know, muscle memory. So
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
That's awesome.
Wow. Chris, you have like a sentimental PC moving off some of the high roller stuff?
Yeah, the sentimental stuff for me is always Brady, and it's tough because like Brady's market is the market right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's weird for me to say like my sentimental market is Brady's market, but like I grew up watching Tom Brady. You know,
Mhm.
I was in middle school watching Tom Brady win Super Bowls, and I was in middle school going to the parades. And
Nice.
like he became my, you know, idol. And that's just a product of me living and growing up where I grew up. I grew up right in the heart of New England. And, you know, I was very, very lucky to be a part of a part of. Like I was in the locker room, but like I was very lucky with the things that he did on the football field, and I think generally that's always where like my emotions take me outside of being a baseball collector. And as a baseball collector, Ken Griffey was it.
Oh yeah.
For all of us.
89 upper deck. Yeah.
89 upper deck. The 89 Tiffany is always like a dream card of mine, and I've had a couple of them now, and again, emotion they move. Love them. But 89 Griffey Tiffany will always be a card that, like, if I had to leave this industry and walk away with a box of cards, that would be it.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because when I got back into the hobby around the same time as you, 4 or 5 years ago, the first card I bought again was when I had disposable income, was the 89 Upper Deck PSA 10. Yeah.
Love it. Great card. He's got such a baby face, right? It's like the Curry. It's like the Curry rookie.
I know.
It's got that lore, because it's like, who the hell is that?
Who's that kid?
Yeah.
So, with Griffey and his face and how young he looks in that card, it's so iconic.
For sure.
Obviously, and it's at the crux of like a huge shift that happened in this case, right? Like the 89 Griffey was like, that was the tipping point. Because there were so many of them printed.
Right.
It's why everything imploded.
Yeah. Right. That's right. That was the catalyst.
It's like the iconic card that we all love, but it also like dismantled an entire.
So true. So true. All right.
Yeah.
It's great.
All right. If you don't mind, Chris, we'd like to just wrap up this interview with 5 quick fire questions. We appreciate your time, of course. And if we could just ask you these 5 quick fire questions, all related to hobby in some way, that'd be great. You ready for that?
Okay. Hot seat. Here we go.
Right. Well, yeah. All right, here we go. Number 1, what's your favorite sports card you currently own and why?
Tom Brady refractor, Brady's only chrome parallel in existence.
Nice. Okay.
Amazing.
That's true.
Amazing.
Number 2, what's your holy grail card?
Ooh. I hate to stay on the Tom Brady train. The Tom Brady championship ticket contenders.
Of course. All right. Okay, sticker autos. Get rid of them or you don't mind them?
Don't love them, but need them.
Okay. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I think it's so difficult to produce sports cards and have autographs at scale without stickers. I think it also increases the value of on-card autographs.
Right.
So I think on-card autographs become that much more important with stickers in the game.
Okay. Understood.
Good answer.
Number 4, coolest fellow collector you met in the hobby?
Ooh, coolest fellow collector I've met in the hobby.
Or one of?
My best friend in this industry is Mike at MC Sports Cards.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And Mike is insanely inspirational in how he does business. He's a young kid that has built an empire and has one of the most insane collections on the planet, but also runs this as a business that I've built a lot of what we do around. So Mike is just is one of the coolest out there.
Nice. Shout out to MC Sports Cards.
Shout out MC.
And lastly, number 5, being from Toronto, on our podcast, we love talking about Vladdy. We love talking about Bichette. Are we homers or are they both legit?
They're both legit. Both low.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think you guys are in an insane spot. It's incredible what the amount of talent that Toronto has right now, the amount of young talent that Toronto has. I think Vlad is generational talent. I think he overcame a lot of doubts this past season. Bo is in his shadow and I think is just as talented, if not more.
Agreed.
So dynamic, so incredibly talented. And then the other young guys around that roster, I think are studs. So Hernandez and Biggio and it's pretty special. Watch out though, the Red Sox.
No,
Hey, it's funny because I always push Rafael Devers, one of my favorite players.
Happy Scoops, baby. That's my man.
These guys know.
He's got to maybe include some salads or something.
Yeah, you don't want to let him be like Pablo Escobar, right? So,
No.
or oh, sorry, Panda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely don't want him to be like Pablo Escobar.
That's what I was gonna say.
We don't want him to be like the Panda.
True. Both are
Either
good.
would be good options.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. All right, Chris, really appreciate your time, and we look forward to connecting again with you soon.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Awesome. Had a blast, and I'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. Being here.
All right, buddy.
All right, that was a great interview with Chris. You know, I think he's well spoken. You could obviously tell he loves the hobby. Any initial thoughts from you guys after that interview?
Well, for me, you know, like I'm a big believer, I guess, in entrepreneurs in general, right? Like I myself am an entrepreneur, and you know, I've gotten to be a part of a few startups, you know, over the last, you know, few years. So seeing this in the card industry, this is exactly what we need. We need people like Chris to really be industry leaders, essentially, and solve those problems, come up with solutions to those problems that industries have in particular, right? So it's like a lot of us, we could say, oh, the industry needs this or the industry needs that, but we don't really do anything about it, right? But just seeing and witnessing, you know, Costa, what he's doing out in the New England area, it's pretty damn amazing to see.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, really well spoken dude, man. Like, yeah, he's definitely inspirational. You can tell, like, just his intelligence and how focused he is on what he talks about. You can see why he's been so successful so far.
Yeah.
I love that he brought in the technology bit too, because that's what we've been talking about. A lot can change in the industry because of the technology, and that's what exactly is needed, right? So
yeah. No, that was fun. Hopefully that's the first of many interviews for us. We love connecting with people in the hobby, and he was a great one to start off with. So thanks, Chris. And we'll end off this episode as we normally do with our regular segment, Pick One. And this week it's our Hot Takes edition. So that's when we take two hot takes, pit it against each other, and then we debate which one's more likely to happen or which one we think is more true. All right. So Hyung, you usually always start us off. So are you ready to?
Yeah, let's
share
do
yours?
it. And you know, I always bring it up because it's usually a problem I'm faced with or something that I'm always fighting myself. And I always, you know, see it, and it's usually 50-50, believe it or not. But maybe we'll see. So basically, paper parallels are better than chrome parallels. Okay, I'm gonna pair that up. So when I say paper parallels, so for instance, like we'll say
Non-numbered?
a tops paper parallel, like a Independence Day out of 76.
Okay.
A paper parallel versus a tops chrome, let's just say a gold refractor out of 50,
I see.
right? So it's same value. We're talking paper parallels are better than chrome parallels, right? Versus SSP, so super short print image variations, are better than numbered rare flagship cards. I know that's a little confusing, so I'll give you an example. Like the Acuna white jersey, right, is an SSP, very low print run, super short print. It's an image variation. Or would you have like a numbered US 250 flagship rookie card, right? That has the same value. So SSP image variations are better than numbered flagship cards.
Right.
So it's paper parallels are better than chrome parallels versus SSP image variations are better than numbered rare flagship cards.
Ooh. Ooh. I'm gonna go with paper parallel over chrome is more truer in the two hot takes. I feel like paper parallel is already better than chrome. I could be wrong on pricing, but man,
the hobby says differently.
Right.
they love the chrome parallels.
Yeah,
that's why I brought it up.
I
love paper
I guess it would be
parallels,
like select, because I don't think Mother's Day and Father's Day are too popular for something that's so low numbered.
Right.
But Independence Day and like black, for example,
And black,
like, oh my goodness,
yeah.
those command some crazy prices. I'm gonna go with paper. Like, I like specifically ID, Independence Day, and black. The parallels, man. Especially Soto, like the Soto Acuna years, man. Those cards just pop so nicely.
Yeah, the 2018.
Yeah. So and you know, paper is, I think what gives so much lure to the paper parallels is that it's just so tough to grade, right? I know Chrome is also like their gem rates are pretty low as well, but I'm pretty sure paper is a lot lower. Like if you look at some of this year's, like I randomly looked up like Louis Robert Independence Day, his flagship image, and it's like I think like 20 were submitted and there's like one PSA 10, right?
Yeah,
so like the gem rates are really tough. So I think I'm gonna go with paper over the Chrome.
Okay. I'm going with the SSP image variation. You mentioned that the hobby says Chrome parallels are better. Hobby's right, man.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Love the gold refractors.
Yeah.
Love the atomic. Oh man, I mean, like paper parallels, like the Independence Day and such. Like I feel like those are the exception
Right.
to the rule, in my opinion.
Right.
So, and SSP image variations. I mean, like those are tough to hit. Like that, they're SSP for a reason. SSSP, you know what I mean? Like
right.
they're rare, even though they aren't numbered. And you know, no one will argue that point. You know the rarity of that, even though they're not numbered. So for me, I think it's easier for me. SSP image variations better than numbered rare flagship cards.
Interesting. Yeah, this is tough.
What's SSP
What's that?
print runs? It's usually like what 300 cards. Or something?
So SSP on the Acuna white jerseys are like 300 for instance, right? So it's like having like a US 250 Independence Day. Acuna is out of 76, right? So you're gonna have a more rare card on that numbered, and that's the reason why I asked this too. Is like I still don't know. I have both. I've always liked paper parallels better than Chrome, but for me, it was Acuna white jersey or like Acuna Independence Day. Which one would you rather have? And that's why I actually sold the Acuna white jersey. We were talking to Costa about it. He pulled that up, the white jersey, and I was like, that's one card I regret selling. Yeah. Right, is the white jersey PSA 10. But I ended up getting the Independence Day. But that's the numbered flagship, like a rookie card that I would rather have long term actually. So that I actually picked. I rather have the numbered rare flagship over the SSP. So I'm gonna go paper parallels are better than Chrome parallels.
Okay, 2-1.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good one.
Nice.
That's a good one. John, you got yours?
Yeah, I do. So of existing like current players right now in MLB, I believe Trout and Pujols hold the most MVPs at 3 MVPs each. So my 1v1 hot take is going to be Soto ends his career with 4 MVPs, or Shohei Ohtani ends his career with 4 MVPs. Now, Shohei is, for some context, Shohei is 27 years old. He's a little bit older. Soto is 23. He's not even, you can say he's not even entering his prime. Ohtani is injury prone, but at this point, he looks like he is MVP automatic. So who's gonna end? Who's gonna do it?
I'll go first because it's the easy one for me. Soto's gonna be the 4-time MVP. Just because we talked about this in previous episodes. I don't know if Shohei can repeat his historic season maybe once or twice, but 4 times or 3 more times. If like we're gonna assume that he's gonna win MVP this year. He's got to stay healthy, and that's been an issue so far. He put it together this year, but who knows if he could do it for 3 more seasons, let alone, 1. So, or the other way around. So yeah, I think Soto, and I feel like even Soto, Mr. Consistency, he played for a bad Nationals team, and look at his stats. It's ridiculous, right?
Amazing.
Like, so Soto is, I'm putting my money on Soto.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Soto as well. For me, he might do it by the time he's 30.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's a monster. Whether it's a batting title or an MVP, he's gonna be a front runner every year, in my opinion. He's like I said, he's the greatest hitter that we've seen in our generation. Period. Just flat out. If we're talking pure hitter, I don't know anybody that's even close other than like a Vladdy. But I still think Soto is that pure hitter, like a Ted Williams type player that we haven't seen, in ever really. Like I said, like Clark said, I don't see Ohtani being able to replicate it consistently. I hope he does because, you know, I truly believe in Ohtani still, but I just think Soto's just too damn good and there's too much time for him. And he's almost there. Isn't he halfway there, maybe?
Man, I came right down to the wire to come up with this question, so I didn't get a chance to think of it myself. But now I'm thinking, man, I think it was a stupid 1v1 because
I know.
No, I know it's good, but like just looking at it, like Otani's 27, he's gonna need to get like 3 MVPs in the next 5 years, which is pretty tough.
Yeah.
It's quite boring, but I think it's got to be Soto. He's got two. Yeah. It's kind of like similar to when I picked Tiger winning a Master over LeBron winning 2 rings. Like Soto's got the time on his hand. Otani's running out of time to get to that mark. So I think the safer bet is Soto. And both these guys are monsters, but yeah, I think the time on Soto's hands is going to be the factor.
You know what? It's not that stupid. Like if you guaranteed me Shohei's health, like
he has a
what
chance.
he's doing,
he's got a chance.
What he's doing as a pitcher and a batter, like no one else is doing that, right? Yeah. So if you guarantee me his health, it's 4 MVPs. Yeah, it's not out of the ordinary, or it's not extraordinary for me to hear that.
I mean, they could technically both do it too, right?
True.
And that's auto Hall of Fame, by the way.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Okay, my hot takes edition of Pick One is we heard this before. Panini Select from, I think, Jeff Wilson of Sports Card Investor. He mentioned it last year, I believe, that he thinks Panini Select Basketball might overtake Panini Prism Basketball as the set to collect. That'll be worth more because it seems to be more rare than Prism cards. But for whatever reason, Hobby Logic, Prism is still king in basketball. But my 1v1 is, do you think Select Basketball will eventually be worth more than Prism Basketball in general, rookie cards? Or I'm going to go to football. Do you think Optic Holo Football rookie cards will be worth more than Prism Football rookie cards? Again, over there, Prism Football rookie cards are number one. But, you know, Optic Holo, they're pretty sweet. So,
that's I'm going to go with my initial gut is Select Basketball will be worth more than Prism. I truly believe that. I think you kind of see a glimpse of it with Courtside. I know it's a different base set, but it still falls under the Select brand, and I think that's giving it, especially respecting that in the basketball. Hopefully they don't ruin it via the print run, but I just don't see Optic Holo Football overtaking a Silver Prism. Just because, I mean, you look at Mahomes' pricing right now, they're at an all-time low probably in the last couple of years, but it's 50%. The Optic Holos are 50% of the Prism. I think where I love Optic though because it is so rare. I think it's different in football because Prism is like a Silver Prism Mahomes is pretty rare. It's not like you can get them anywhere either, right? So I think the rarity Prism football is too rare still. I think it could happen if it was basketball, but I don't see it in football happening. Optic Holo not taking it. So I have to go on the other side and say Select Basketball will be worth more than Prism because I do believe one day it will.
Okay.
Yeah. I love Optic Holo. I think it's going to have a hard chance at beating Prism in football. But with that being said, I think the new Select, I think Panini, perhaps Panini already knew because the newest product came out before they lost they unofficially lost the license. But perhaps they already knew that and they just decided, let's just print the crap out of this product and go nuts. And I think that really affected the brand, man. And even if when I kind of look at Select pricing, I don't know. I don't trust that Select is ever anymore going to overtake, especially the damage that was done this year in terms of like market perception. And then when you look at Select the product itself, I love Courtside. I think, Courtside is, it's SSP, so it's going to be better than Prism base. But I feel like Courtside within Select kind of cannibalizes, I think Select kind of cannibalizes its own value. So like, because people just draw to Courtside, I think they just can't view Concourse as something that is super desirable or, better than Prism or better than like Optic, whatever, right? Because I just think if you're looking at Select, you're just going to naturally gravitate towards Courtside. And, like Premier and Concourse kind of get left in the wind. So I don't, all that being said, I don't believe Select. I used to. I think I was on that same camp as Jeff Wilson in believing Select was on a trajectory to beat Prism. No faith anymore. So because of that, I have to default back, and I'm going to choose Optic Hollow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was going to be a sweep, Select over Prism, but you know what? Johnny, you convinced me. I'm staying. My initial was Optic Hollow as well.
Really?
And for the same reason that you said about Select this year screwing up the brand a little bit by just doing too many parallels, right? And I personally, Optic Hollow football rookie cards just look
So
way
nice.
better
than
I agree.
the photos and stuff.
Prism Silver. Yeah, it's like consistent in a way, and it's just it's a great picture. Like I love them posing, especially the QBs, and it's one area where I think right now it's like hobby logic that Prism football is just worth more. But I think, I don't know, over time, I believe in the people. I believe in the people that are going to see, look at the Optic Hollow, like, hey, wait a minute, this looks way better than the Prism football card. Whereas Prism basketball, like, people are diehards about Prism basketball. So I think it's going to take more to have Select, even with the issues that you brought up, John, overcome Prism. So yeah, for me, it's Optic Hollow football will one day be worth more than the Prism football.
Yeah.
But it's a good point you mentioned about Mahomes, Young. Like it is rare to begin with, so that might make it harder. But time will tell. We'll see. This is a hot takes edition for a reason. These are all hot takes.
Hey man, we're going to the card show in a couple of days. Optic Hollow Mahomes, man. Let's go.
Look for one.
Yo, I'm looking at the eBays. It's under 3,000.
It's under
now.
3,000.
So, oh, nice.
PSA 10.
It's time to
Holy
buy.
cow.
Yeah.
If I see one for under 3 at the show, I might have to pull it.
Hey.
I might be there with you, man. I might be there with you.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. That's crazy.
All right. We'll talk a little bit more about the show next week when we go this week by the time this airs. But yeah, this was a great show. Of course, thanks one more time to Chris for joining us on the pod. Love hearing your thoughts. And yeah, we'll hope to connect with him soon whenever we're in the Boston area. Next time, we'll definitely have to check out Card Vault, which looks amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. And thanks again for all our listeners and our subscribers. If you haven't done so already, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. We appreciate any feedback and 5-star reviews if you like the show. But yeah, until next time, we'll see you again on Tuesday. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.